quite 5 seconds, but close enough to it. Joining us here for this first guest session is Dave Cliffe, manager for the incident for incident management at AWS, here to talk to us a little bit about the Incident Manager launch for AWS Systems Manager. Whew, all right, manage that one without any slip-ups. Dave, thank you for joining us.
I'm impressed, Nick. Great to join you, and you, Jenna, as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I may be quick with the words here, but I'm certainly not the expert in Incident Manager, which is why we have you joining us here today. So for those that didn't get a chance to check out the blog post, or folks like myself who don't know all that much about it, what is Incident Manager?
So Incident Manager, we really, our team internally owns kind of major incident management within AWS and Amazon.com. It's something that we've run for the last 20 plus years for Amazon effectively as a company, and we've certainly learned a lot, operationally through all of that. And so Incident Manager is really kind of the codification of some of those learnings and kind of rolling those into some tools that we've been using internally a little bit, and now we've taken a lot of those learnings and rolled them into what we call Incident Manager here. It really breaks down into two main components. One is kind of a response automation engine that we call response plans. And then the second piece is an incident dashboard, actually, just to kind of help you during active incident response, but also for post-incident analysis, because incident learning is something that really helps you to get better. Even as painful as it is to have failures and deal with failures, man, that is one of the best learning experiences that you can have with respect to understanding your production systems, understanding your people, how they respond, in crisis, especially trying to stay calm and all of that. So yeah, it's been a really fun journey in being able to build out this product, and we're excited to get it out in the hands of customers now.
Excellent. One of my favorite things is being able to talk about failure. So I'm excited about this launch. So there's a big ecosystem at play here. Users need to find a way to set up meaningful alarms, but then the incident manager has to help take care of the downstream challenges. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I have to laugh sometimes that it seems like every tool in kind of this broader ecosystem, it's all about reducing mean time to response, and so MTTR is like the main thing that ourselves that we're going after. So many of the other AWS platform services are going after. Tons of great partners in this space are going after, and ultimately, again, we're trying to build this ecosystem for your benefit, you as a customer, and for ours, obviously, given, again, this is what we do internally and what we need internally when it comes to running production systems. But I mean, this goes beyond just detection. As amazing as some of the tools are that we have CloudWatch, we've got EventBridge, we've got DevOps Guru. Like there's an absolute ton of ways of kind of detecting problems. And what we really wanted to do with Incident Manager is kind of help you go beyond beyond detection to the rest of the process. And it's not to say that any of those tools that I mentioned already stop there, because they don't. They help you to diagnose, they help you to triage, they help you to to find what is the kind of contributing factor or root causes of what's going on, so you can kind of in real time figure out how to mitigate whatever issue it is. But we really needed something that would help you kind of orchestrate, as you said, Jenna, like the rest of the downstream, basically, like what happens after you've detected, and kind of how can we help you kind of through the rest of the process all the way through to recovery. And then again, leverage the fact that, hey, you've done some great work here, getting your systems back online, fixing whatever availability or performance issue that you might be dealing with in your application. How can we make the best of that to learn the most that we can, and turn that into improvement? And so that's really, I mean, there's just a ton of tools in play here, obviously, and so integrations into a bunch of those across the AWS platform, as well as through the partner network, are just crucial in order to make sure that all of those things plug together and you can hopefully have a higher availability application.
Yeah, certainly a lot of moving pieces here to really get it right, and right
Yeah.
is never a permanent target. It's always improving, and so uh, you mentioned in the onset that you've been managing incidents internally at Amazon and AWS for quite some time now, and we'll get into, I think, a little bit of the best practices and more that are baked, and the learnings that are baked into the service here. But I wanted to talk a little bit about uptime broadly here, right? From my best read on the situation, that no one ever tries deliberately to not have the best uptime that they can possibly have, because at every point being down is just bad for your business, no matter what business you have, right? Imagine a shop where like the door just wouldn't open
Yeah.
for like at random points in the day. That's always going to be a bad thing. At AWS, we talk a lot about the concept of mechanisms. In a scenario where everyone has the best intentions and a mutually aligned goal, sometimes that's not enough, or it isn't enough by default to optimize. So what can we talk about mechanisms maybe that AWS or your teams have used, and if possible, ways that those are baked into Incident Manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I just echo again. Everybody wants to achieve as high uptime availability as they can, and everybody really does try hard. And it's one of the first things that we notice even internally, our kind of post incident process. Internally, we call it COE, or correction of errors, and it's one of the most common things is that teams are they're excited to be able to work on improving their services when they discover some failures, whether they're catastrophic or even not necessarily catastrophic. But it's everybody wants to get better, but you really need those mechanisms in place. And mechanisms for us, I mean, we build a lot of internal tools. We build a lot of tools for ourselves, and then we make sure that teams adopt those tools, and then we're constantly inspecting those tools and the process around them. And honestly, like I think with respect to Incident Manager in particular, and you'll see this come up over and over in the way that we talk about the product and really what the product is for, is this idea of preparation. Because honestly, that's one of the mechanisms that we've really built in is the concept of like operational readiness review, like we do internally. Like when we're ready to launch a new service, as an example, the expectation is that we've gone through a pretty rigorous checklist of, hey, these are the things that you need to think about and understand where the risk potentially is operationally. And that's one of the mechanisms that we have in place. Another one that has been really fun to talk about and share with customers is our weekly ops metrics meeting. So we're regularly reviewing with potentially thousands of engineers, and all the way up to our SVP of operations, our regular dashboards. Like what are the operational dashboards that we're using to look at both our kind of KPIs, our higher order kind of customer impact metrics, things like order drop in the case of Amazon.com, obviously, and then how do you break that down into the individual components, and understanding those operational dashboards, reviewing them on a regular basis, and being very very much deep dive in terms of the Amazon leadership principles. Dive deep is a big one with respect to just going in and really trying to understand at depth, like how is this going to help me? Is this really pulling out the right indicators for me? And so those are some of the mechanisms that we have, as well as kind of tracking action items when you do have a COE. That's another really, really important mechanism, making sure that teams are closing those out and implementing the improvements that they've identified.
Yeah.
So, in the same way that, were you going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, and I was gonna say this is fascinating. I'm not on more of the
Yeah.
incident side internally, but I could listen to this all day. I think that if I remember correctly, there are some reInvent talks where we actually have folks like yourself that sort of in a breakout session expound on things like operational readiness review. I hope we can get a link to that in chat. But if seeing how Amazon operates infrastructure at scale internally with high uptime is something that's interesting to you, I implore you check that video out, because even on the other side of the AWS house here, I learned so much listening to things like some of those talks. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. That talk was by Oren Nachman from our team, who's worked on Incident Manager as well. Who just, I mean, we love talking to customers about this, and it is, like you said, Nick. It's a total geek out session where, like, yeah, you're talking about process, but you're talking about operational culture, and like, why is operational ownership? What does that mean, and how does it show up? And what are the trade-offs, of one operating model versus another? And and again, things that we've learned and what we've applied ourselves. And that's not to say that it necessarily will work that way for you or in your organization. Amazon's obviously its own peculiar entity, obviously, but certainly a lot of the principles we're really trying to make it so that customers can implement them, and get those mechanisms in place for themselves.
Dave, you mean DevOps isn't just taking my code and chucking it over the fence for another team to run? Have I got the DevOps model all wrong here? I'm joking. We'll talk more about that in the DevOps guru session that we have next, so don't worry.
You got it.
The next
Sorry.
one.
Yeah, Jenna, I've interrupted you a million times now. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Okay, so next question is related to these best practices. So we've done a lot of learning, obviously, on our end. How is this service helping customers be aware of more than just best practices?
Yeah, so again, it comes into how do we help you, have tools in place that you can adopt and kind of build mechanisms around yourself. And because again, everybody wants to get better here, but it does take some good tools, putting data in your face in the right moments. And it isn't just the tools itself. Again, I mean, just all of these problems are, what do they call them? Socio-technical problems effectively to solve, right? These are a combination of having your people understand, the operators, the on-call engineers who are running those systems, having them understand kind of the process side of it, but then ultimately, getting your systems to kind of line up and making sure the tools kind of help you get prompted in that direction. But one of the main areas, again, for us, just as a simple example, ownership. Ownership's one of the kind of Amazon leadership principles here. And from an operational ownership perspective, I mean, again, what you were mentioning, Nick, like, I mean, it was 15 years ago now that I think Werner said, "You build it, you run it." Like, and we're still fighting that one a little bit, in the industry, obviously. But there's a whole lot to that, and it's really not. I think it does go beyond just the, like, who's paged first. It really is like seeing teams lean into owning the customer experience, and just being incredibly rigorous with the not kind of pass the buck mentality, where it's like, okay, yeah, our application's unavailable, but it's the platform, like, the platform's unavailable, so there's nothing I can do. There's lots you could potentially do. There's traffic rerouting. There's kind of fail over to a different data center, or I mean, there's a number of ways in your systems to think through how you could potentially mitigate those potential outages. And again, this is where preparation comes into play, right? Having a response plan for what happens if this dependency falls over in this way, or I've done some failure injection here into injecting latency between our web front end nodes and our database. Like, this is what that looks like. We should have a plan for if this ever happens. Those sorts of things are really kind of the process behind what we're trying to help instill with the product itself. But there's a number of other examples, and we're really trying to provide some good templates here for, as an example, what a good runbook might look like in terms of high level process that you should follow, or hey, here's Amazon's out of the box kind of stripped down post incident analysis template. We're providing that for you out of the box here as well.
So this is all fascinating. Again, I think pinning it as a socio-technical type of problem where just the tool doesn't solve everything for you is really important. Best practices, wonderful. You've covered a lot about that. Let's bring the best practices and the learnings and make it a little more tactical. Let's pare down on the actual features. You talked about tons of things that seem to come into play here, from runbooks to on call. Let's talk about how incident managers features enable that reduction in MTTV, which is mean time to, or MTTR resolution, right? Yeah, I don't know where I got V from. But yeah, let's talk about how that's bundled in. What are customers, and you'll show us in a little bit, but what are they getting out of the box here as features and incident manager that help them here?
Yeah, so again, response plans are there to help you automate the parts of the process that you can at least get started. So we're hooking up to alarms that you have pre-configured, whether that's CloudWatch alarms or via EventBridge or from DevOps Guru. That's kind of the first piece. Is you've probably already defined an alarm. You just maybe haven't kind of determined what to do with it necessarily. Or if you have, and there are a lot of customers who have, hey, we've written down a runbook in a wiki page somewhere or in a README, and I hope that we can find it when we need it. So one of the features, in addition to kind of as part of response plans, is around runbook specifically. Is we want to make sure that you can kind of embed that runbook experience directly in your face in kind of that incident dashboard. And that gets pulled in automatically. And a part of that too, and just to dive into the runbooks a little bit more, a part of that that's really important for us, and what we found ourselves internally, is that runbooks are often not kind of fully automated things at all. They are kind of a checklist in some cases, or a step-by-step guide on, hey, these are the things to try this command. Look at this dashboard, page this person if you need to. And those are oftentimes kind of a more manual process, at least initially. And so what we wanted to do was give you an engine as part of Incident Manager that allowed you to kind of have that manual process in line, but then kind of evolve it over time, or kind of we embrace this idea of gradual automation, where, hey, if you're finding that step 2 of your runbook is taking way too long, it always takes you 12 minutes to run, then maybe that's an opportunity to automate. And by leveraging the Systems Manager automation engine under the covers there, that's one of the ways that we can kind of take you from more manual process to start into kind of more of a semi-automated environment. And so that's another area, I think, where we've really invested heavily, making sure that engine is really helpful for our customers, and that there's kind of a nice smooth onboarding and an improvement process. See, what did I miss? Now you know it all already, right?
No, I don't know it all at all. I think what you're talking about with the automation piece of that, I think is really interesting, because a lot of smaller teams probably aren't going to have it, either have the capacity to automate something right away. And again, you talk about the gradual automation of it. You don't always know what you need to automate, and yeah, it might be the thing that takes a really long time, or it could be the step that is really hard to do, and that's where you want that automation to come in.
That's a great point. Is oftentimes the automation is not, especially during incident response. Oftentimes the automation isn't necessarily just to speed things up. It's to make it safer. It's to ensure that that you've reviewed kind of what this command is, you've tested it separately, and you feel good about that. And every on-call engineer is going to do it the same way, which is a really important piece in terms of predictability in a very unpredictable environment or setup oftentimes. And again, that's actually why our team internally, we're not known as the incident management team or anything like that, because to a large extent, our team does a lot more than just kind of the major incident management piece. But our team is called AWS Safety Engineering because safe operations is really kind of where we're trying to get to. We're trying to help teams really improve the safety of their operations, which includes a number of tools and a number of processes, which is why I've mentioned things like post-incident analysis, or what we do with COE, our operational readiness review, or our process, as well as obviously how we handle major incidents. So a lot of these things kind of come together, and they really do need to be kind of all brought together, because the what you don't want is, you don't want to go from a dev and ops silo to an incident and problem and et cetera change, and and those silos, like that's not going to do you any good either, unfortunately. So
yeah, it seems like it's a balance of being, or not a balance, but like being more proactive as opposed to being just reactive. Whereas if your team was the incident management team, all you'd be doing was reacting. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And a big part of our team, again, in that vein, is responsible for writing automation. Like, we're responsible for automating, how we make things better, as opposed to just being the team that reacts. And that's a big part of the kind of cultural side, and how our leaders have kind of built out the team is really awesome. We love talking about it, as you can tell.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too hard to convince you to come onto the show, so I think you really practice what you preach here. Speaking of teams, right? The very existence of your team is a testament to the fact that a tool can't do it all here, and I think the way I want to take this is, like, it's a tool. Who is it used by? Like, automation is clearly a key part in certain instances for speeding up, and other instances for improving reproducibility of steps and making sure that may be more safe. But to me, it sounds like the investigator in the course of an incident is a really critical individual here, or a team of individuals. Am I right in assuming, like, the person that's investigating is going to be using Incident Manager, and it is going to be basically this, my interpretation here, like a Swiss Army knife that's helping them get access to their data quicker. It's the alarm was properly routed to them. Is that the person that we expect? Is that the type of customer that we expect to be using this tool?
Absolutely, yeah. The quote unquote first responder, is very much the kind of the first person to get in there, and some of the other principles that do come up, obviously, kind of culturally at Amazon, are things like, escalation is not a dirty word. Like that is something that we are comfortable with. Escalating is going to somebody's manager because they're not available is not necessarily just going to reflect terribly on that person. Like, you are optimizing for the customer ultimately, and I think that's what it comes down to. And everybody's really fully aligned on that, kind of working backwards from the customer. And so as a result, like, that's a big part of even though it's the first responder who's obviously going to first get engaged, and hopefully they can, with the help of a good runbook, resolve it themselves. Oftentimes with these kind of larger customer impacting issues, you do need to pull other people in, and so again, that's where the incident dashboard that we've built, it's intended to help you to pull more people together, and actually to hook up with Slack and chatbot as well, to make it so that you actually have a space to collaborate in with folks as well.
So how do you handle both known and unknown threats? Like, what are your tactics for figuring out how to prepare your response plans for the differences there?
Yeah, I mean, the best way you can do it is to try to think through and brainstorm and game day, and the ones that you can kind of plan for, and to have a response plan for those. But having a response plan in place for the, like, hey, we're in unknown territory here. The exploratory troubleshooting, is really important as well. And I think one of the things that we really try to reemphasize, to our customers, and certainly through the product as well, and you'll see it kind of in the process side of it, is to focus on the customer impact. Make sure that we as engineers, I think, can get very caught up in what's the bug. I got to find the bug. Like, where is it? I got to find it. You got to get to root cause, like, during the incident, when in reality, like, what you have to do is mitigate impact. And so, one of the more common mitigations is rollback. Like, you got to roll back. And so, that's one of the first things that we kind of highlight in, even just in terms of our best practices and our template, is look to roll back. Like, that's a great first step, but make sure that you're staying focused on what the customer impact is, and finding a solution that mitigates that first. Then you got lots of time. You can go dig into to root cause, and there's lots of additional parts of the AWS platform to help you dive in there.
Yep.
Yeah, one thing that's coming to mind for me here is I know we've seen this as a more accepted and prevalent term in recent years, even though it's been a concept forever, is this thing called chaos engineering. The desire to bake in things that may be unknown or unexpected threats, but actually building systems and test mechanisms to be able to game day or practice in production or in test against these scenarios. So one example would be like, if like your API goes down, for example, and the ability to do that in a controlled manner such that you can then bake resiliency into your architecture and your backend. I'm sure there's like a whole host of, in our industry, outages that may have had the most seemingly absurd combination of factors. Dave, I want to see the service, but I can't let you off the hook before you give us at least something. Can we hear some crazy story of like failure due to like an unexpected case? Is there anything that we can give to the customers watching here?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, reading kind of failure or incident reports. For some of those widespread ones. And again, I know, even speaking self-critically, like, customers do read those, for ourselves, and making sure that we're being transparent and we're sharing. They analyze how we kind of pick that apart. But yeah, some of the ones that stand out to me. Actually, there was an outage now years ago, and again, I won't call out the kind of the customer in particular, but it was basically they had automated their DR failover, and to the point where they actually got into effectively a DR failover loop, where they were failing over between two failing systems, unfortunately. And it was the automation was effectively what caused the problem in that case. So automation is, we talk about it very fondly, and it is a great thing to, improve safety and speed in many cases. But yeah, it can cause some really funny, catastrophic issues in many cases too. So that's where, again, gradual automation, making sure that you're kind of balancing, what's automated versus kind of semi-automated with operators involved, is good caution there.
Yeah, when we talk about outages, there's so much more than just a few edge cases in a sorting algorithm that you might have. So expect the unexpected is certainly something that I think folks should heed. Well, you've sold me. I am convinced that for my projects that I run with folks, or for customers that are interested in this, I want them to get started with it. But first, I need to see this in action. Do you think you'd be able to show us a little bit about what it looks like to use Incident Manager?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm going to share screen here.
We have while we're waiting for that, it's up on the screen, but Dragonov over in chat, it says the worst outage is the time that I tripped over a cord. That has happened. I don't remember if it was on this show or somewhere else, but or another show on Twitch here. But yeah, that's a threat that I did not think to mitigate against, and then I taped my Ethernet cable to the ceiling. So that's mitigation, but we didn't think about it in advance. Maybe Incident Manager could have helped me, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it's very visceral for most customers that we've talked to. Engage with them at DevOps days or or other events. Like everybody has the kind of oh, it was a dark and stormy night. November 12th, 1995. Like they almost have the I don't know. It's always a funny story anyway. All right. So yeah, let me share a little bit more about Incident Manager here. So a couple of things to call out. Again, you'll notice that, so this is the landing page. You'll be able to find Incident Manager here within the services list, but it itself is actually part of AWS Systems Manager, as you mentioned. So we've partnered really closely with the Systems Manager team here, making sure that we can kind of roll together as Systems Manager really kind of broadens and it kind of becomes the centerpiece for an operational environment for you as a customer to kind of come in and coordinate. But Incident Manager in particular, again, you'll notice the word prepare shows up a bunch. Get prepared. Hopefully that's what you want to do, and really we want to kind of help you and guide you through that. But again, as we've mentioned, a couple of pieces to call out here. Response plans really being that centerpiece, plugging into things like Amazon CloudWatch. I'll show you that hookup in just a second. But again, response plans are there to help you automate and kind of define that template for what is the incident, what should the incident look like, and what kind of automation can we kick off for you. That includes obviously who to page. So we are, shipping some capabilities here for contacting you via SMS, via voice, escalation, and working actually with some of our third-party partners here to plug in here as well, because hey, we've got a lot of great partners in this space like PagerDuty, Atlassian, et cetera, who have some great solutions here. If you're using them today, plug in this way. The reality is that there are a lot of customers that we see who they don't really have those solutions in place, and so we really wanted to provide something that could fill a gap there. And then another piece, once you've kind of contacted the right person, obviously, what runbook do we start? What do we show you when you show up on that incident dashboard? And again, this is going to kick off that automation process, but it could be just a manual process, and I'll show you that in a sec. The third piece is we want to kind of set you up with AWS Chatbot and make sure that you have a space to collaborate in. Again, with folks that either from the team that you need to pull in, or making sure there's just transparency with the fact that you're fighting a fire at the moment. And so that's, again, what response plans do, is coordinate those parts of the process and then drop you into an incident dashboard that we create. And that incident dashboard will live through the lifetime of the incident across all of the diagnosis, mitigation that you're doing, and then through post-incident analysis. And so I'll show you that kind of end to end real quick. What do you think? Should we get prepared?
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dave, does anyone not want to be prepared? That's my honest question.
I know every time I mention the word prepare, I feel like I need to start singing, like Scar from The Lion King or something like that. But it goes through my head anyway. Okay, so on Get Prepared, I'm not going to walk through this in detail because I really want to show you the incident experience. But a big part of what we provide is the ability to create kind of a multi-regional kind of high availability experience. So we allow you to kind of replicate that incident data across regions, make sure that you've got a highly available experience. You set up contacts and escalation, as we mentioned, as part of this. And then ultimately, we want to help you create a response plan. So I've actually got one created already. It's actually wired up to this particular banana stand order drop metrics alarm here. And if I scroll down in this alarm configuration, you'll notice that there's actually a new action down here under Systems Manager Action. You can create an incident based on that order drop metric. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fire that alarm. And we are going to create an incident, and we're going to go dig into what's going on. So
You
So the
tell us a
first thing
little
I
bit
can show
about,
you,
can you tell us a little bit about what this banana stand is?
oh,
High
what is the
level.
banana stand? I mean, come on. So the banana stand is a just a fantastic thing that we miss in Seattle, Washington. You know, in kind of the Amazon corporate space down in Seattle there, where we give out free bananas. You know, to anybody who wants to come by. So that's kind of where the idea came from. But you know, in this
Got it.
particular case, Banana Stand is an e-commerce application for
Yes.
selling bananas online. So we
Okay.
take banana orders, and that's what we do. That's a good question though. So you'll notice if I jump into Slack here, you'll notice that I've triggered this alarm right now, and you'll notice that it's actually gone ahead and created an incident. And so from there, I can basically jump in. So I can start to interact with the incident. I've actually got some chatbot commands that I can run on that incident, but ultimately kind of I'm being paged, and therefore I need to jump in and look at what's going on with this particular incident. So this is our incident dashboard here that's gone and been created. I can pre-populate some of this information, like all of this. You know, the more emojis, the better, obviously, because you know, you gotta convey that there's fire here. We've got details about kind of the particular alarm that tripped, as well as the incident itself and recent kind of timeline actions and the runbook. So that's really just kind of the high level. But if I jump into metrics here, again, one of the pieces of value that we can give you is the fact that, hey, you are in an environment within the AWS console. Therefore, we can actually go and pull metrics for you. So these are actually live metric graphs, obviously associated. In this case, I can actually go ahead and even pull in additional metrics in here. So if I want to pull in, you know, hey, order volume, error count, etc. From an existing dashboard. So again, if I've done my preparation and I have a CloudWatch dashboard already pre-created, I can go ahead and add some additional metrics from that dashboard very simply here and start to see what's going on.
This is awesome. A lot of folks in chat are chiming in with questions as they're seeing this. One question from Philip J. Fry, great name, great reference. They're wondering, are there ways to customize or send custom events to that Slack chatbot on that notification, or are folks bound to what CloudWatch can enable them to do there?
So we have the notification itself is something that we kind of pipe in, and you'll notice that like there's a number of updates that are being pushed from Incident Manager as different updates are made to the incident here. But with respect to like what information you can push back, yeah, I mean this is just an example here. I've actually got kind of written out as a command here, but you've got at AWS incidents here, create timeline event, and so the timeline is, again, one of the ways that we're trying to track the activity through what's going on within the incident here. So I can add timeline events in here, like, hey, there was it turned out there was a bad deploy, say an hour ago. And now I'm just kind of discovering that. And I can start to kind of catalog that in this timeline view here. I've also obviously got the ability to push events in from Slack, and really the key that we're thinking of there is in the cases where ourselves, when we're kind of going back and forth with each other on chat during a major incident, we're trying to figure out, okay, what is the best path forward? What's the mitigation, or do we need to page somebody else? Once those kind of that chat conversation has I'll say closed into a decision, that's the type of thing that you want to document in this incident. So, you know, we don't want all the chatter necessarily, but we definitely want to know what was the decision that was made, and you know, or what did you uncover when you were deep diving the logs. You know, those are the sorts of things that we really want want to help customers to kind of document in that timeline, because those are the key things that become really relevant when you get to post incident analysis.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the jumping over to the runbook here. So again, we've started the runbook itself. It is kind of in a waiting state, and you can see that it's actually in kind of in this kind of triage step. And all we've done here, this is actually kind of the default runbook that we've provided out of the box for you as a template. the default runbook here, it just guides you through the process of like, hey, you should triage first, find out how bad it is, indicate how bad it is on the incident, communicate that, make sure that that's well known, then move into, diagnosis, where again, rollback. Like that could be the first thing that you actually go look for, go look to do, or make sure to kind of locate the failures, in terms of the different parts of your application. And again, AWS, we really try to provide a bunch of tools across the platform. We're trying to help you kind of orchestrate all of those, but we recognize that there's some great partner solutions here as well. So if you need links off to, to your ticketing system from here, or to a dashboard in a different, in a different monitoring tool, or to your status page, there's the ability. I mean, all we're doing really is just rendering the markdown that is in your runbook here, but we're doing it in a way that allows you to actually start to interact with it. So if I click resume here, and I forgot to turn on auto refresh of the dashboard here, but if I refresh now, you can see that it's actually moved and kind of time stamped. Okay, this is when we got through triage. Now we're into diagnosis. What are we doing? Great. Do I need to page someone? And again, the runbook itself, if I just jump over tabs here, because I've got it open in a separate tab, the runbook itself, as I mentioned, is, this is just a default template that it doesn't really do anything. All it's doing is pausing and waiting for you to kind of say, hey, we're done with this step. But the engine itself, this is part of the Systems Manager automation engine. The engine itself, I mean, it supports everything from invoking a Lambda. If you have a Lambda already set up for this, you can run a command, you can execute an AWS API, or call some other service, execute a script in line if if you're a competent Python or PowerShell developer that I'm not. So I think that those are the types of things that, again, we want to help you. If you need to just add a new step that is the kind of pre-triage for gathering diagnostics, like the engine itself is there for for your use to kind of incorporate more automation over time. So that's a big part of why we were excited about the runbook automation side.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably going to speak to a scenario that a lot of folks that may have been that this may solve have probably been in themselves. You operate a service and there is an outage, and maybe it's just you or there's a number of people. I know you have a bunch of tabs open. We're really only looking at one or two here, but you are like the meme of the guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with all the lines and the newspapers on the wall, and you're trying to say, like, I've got these 20 monitors, I've got my dashboard, I've got this, and they're all in 10 different places. And when you take an action on the runbook that's in a static document, everyone else is like breathing down your neck, wondering, like, is this step complete? What's the status of this operation? Can we all see the data at one time? What is becoming very quickly apparent to me is that, like, it's not just enough to have the data exist somewhere, whether that's metrics related to your operational infrastructure or like a run book that you're going to follow. Really just like greasing the wheels of keeping it all in one place, making sure people have access to the current status at one time, and really just, I know that the term single pane of glass is used a lot when we're talking about visibility into something, but this is much more than that. This is operationally centralizing the incident management such that it has the ability to bring everything that you may possibly need in here. And I think that, like, scripts and automation is really the one that I know we didn't talk about earlier, but really bringing that in here too means that incident manager is the one-stop shop for everybody that's managing and trying to follow the incident.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can't help you. We're not going to to bring all of that troubleshooting experience, or that automation experience, and like all that command execution into a single pane necessarily. But we certainly need to be able to help you to document when that's happening, and make sure that part is known. And again, it's for the purposes of post-incident analysis, which I'll take you to in just a second, actually, because the only other piece I want to show is, again, making sure that you can go engage whoever you need to engage, across the different escalation paths that you have set up or pre-created, the different individuals. Because once you have all of that information, once all of that's kind of, you can breathe the sigh of relief because you've implemented the mitigation. You've been watching the metrics, so you can kind of see, okay, yeah, I can see recovery happening. Great, resolve the incident. And once you've gotten to resolve, you can see that at the top here, I'm prompted to go and create an analysis. And from here, I can kind of jump over to, again, kind of the experience that we have for taking Amazon's post-incident analysis template here, and helping you start to document exactly what happened, and hopefully identify some ways to actually improve how you responded. So again, this is kind of a separate but kind of connected console for post-incident analysis. You can provide kind of summary impact. We've obviously brought over things like the timeline. We've brought over the metrics, but actually in a slightly different experience. And the main thing here is actually that what we've done is taken the time series data associated with the metrics that were associated with that incident, and kind of pump them in here so that you can start to go in and you can add individual annotations in here. So if I want to annotate this graph in some way and say, hey, this is actually what I see as start of impact. It showed up right there when there was a drop, and I can add that annotation into to the graph here and start to kind of build the narrative around, okay, here's what happened on this day. Like I said, dark and stormy night. You can summarize it however you want. And then ultimately we'll take you through kind of a template for questions that we ask ourselves internally when we have an incident. How could time detection be improved? We prompt you with some questions here. And if you do have, an action that you want to take here, as an example, like add a metric, we can actually pop that directly over into the action items tab and help you to go create those actions. And they actually get created as in Systems Manager Ops Center. So again, close proximity there. And then those can be reflected into ServiceNow or Jira as needed. So again, trying to really help you kind of build those mechanisms that we talked about earlier.
Customers customize those questions that are asked on that tab or on the, I think on that tab. Questions. Yeah.
Yes, they can actually. Yeah. So obviously, again, we want to provide a good out of the box template that helps you to drill into those different phases of the incident. We've even got kind of a 5 whys approach that we use internally. Whether or not you like that or not, but there are definitely customizations. Yeah, if you have specific questions or data that you want to gather for yourself about how long this phase took or whatever, again, you've got that data being pulled in ideally from the timeline. You can even add additional timeline points here as you're doing the analysis.
Got it.
Dave, this is great. I again, trying to recap everything you've shown me here. We went from an initial alarm that you triggered manually. You showed that. Imagine that's set up to some like CPU utilization or a KPI like the banana stand order conversion drop. And then we saw how in Incident Manager we were able to start like working on that incident, have access at just our fingertips to the Runbook, automation that either gathers data or the ability to perform potential remediation steps, like maybe a rollback. Instead of jumping into another console, you can just have an automated rollback script for that particular service. And then all the way through to engaging other people that could be a part of the incident, resolving the incident, and post-incident analysis for COE such that we hopefully improve it and that incident doesn't happen again. So we opened at the top of the broadcast saying this is everything from the alarm down. And have we missed anything here? Because I think I've really seen it. Because then the COE happens calmly throughout the week following the incident, and then it's smooth sailing, not to extend the dark and stormy night analogy that you've used from that point forward until maybe a different incident hopefully doesn't happen but might.
No, I mean, I wish we could say we do it all, but let's be honest, like incidents are complex and muddy. There's lots of things. And this is, again, why we have great, partner relationships with companies like PagerDuty and Atlassian and ServiceNow, because incident management, does extend beyond what we showed here, whether that's the broader communications that you're sending out to your organization, or kind of how it connects into, as I mentioned, customer support and or PR in the case of scary incidents in particular. Where you need to a more curated response. So there's again, this is why we've got amazing partners here that we're working with to make sure that you're well covered. We're really trying to give you something that helps to glue those things together.
Well put. I couldn't have said it better myself. We all want to make sure we live in a world where banana stand US East 1 is up for as much time as possible. So
exactly. We don't want to lose out on that.
Right.
A hypothetical region for a hypothetical service named Banana Stand, as you showed us today. But Dave, again, this was super helpful. Lots of really great chatter from people here on Twitch and in LinkedIn that are enjoying this. Is there anywhere that folks should go if they want to learn more or really just get started outside of what we've spoken about today? Any places you can point them?
Yeah. So again, our docs are there under Incident Manager here. Search for the user guide. We'll provide some links there. We've got some great content out there on blogs. That kind of guide you through the end to end, both kind of the initial launch blog post as well as a couple on the management and governance blog that we'll link to as well. But yeah, just please engage with us. Give it, take it for a spin. If it fits for you, we would really love to hear from you. So yeah, please get in touch.
Wonderful. Well, unfortunately, I think we're at about time. I'd love to fire off lots of other hypothetical incidents, but we do have another guest that's going to talk to us about a semi-related topic. So again, Dave Cliffe, manager here from the incident management team at AWS, showing us the latest incident manager launch here for AWS Systems Manager. Dave, thanks again for taking the time. This was a great session.